The first thing you should know about my friend Mrs. Filholm is that she's got a new application for recording her side of the podcast. For the last several episodes, I've recorded this podcast via Skype, which resulted in a degraded and occasionally garbled recording of Mrs. Filholm due to the file compression and general internet weather that comes with recording over the internet. Under the new system, Mrs. Filholm will record her voice, I'll record my voice, and you'll get to hear our clean, uncompressed, ungarbled recordings in all of their glory. The next thing you should know is that I'm a little bummed about this new change. I'm a highly competitive person, especially when the other person doesn't know that we're competing. And even though Mrs. Filholm always had me beat on things like pronunciation, intonation, and general coherency of speech, I was winning the sound quality war. It's very minor, I know, but now my reign is ended, and we're back on equal footing.
The first thing you should know about my friend Andrew is that he's a bad influence. Just last week, he encouraged me to do something that sounds exactly like a crime. The details are still a bit sketchy, but it concerns this show, some kind of a paddle, and evidently the intent to unlawfully seize a vehicle in transit and force it to go in a different destination or use it for one's own purposes. The next thing you should know about Andrew is that, of course, he would never do such a thing. He did, however, set me up with some sweet software called Audio Hijack that will bring my voice, finally, sweet listeners, into your ears with good quality, even though we're recording remotely. Purely criminal.
Welcome to Half My Age, a weekly show in which a 25-year-old adult and a 50-year-old child help each other make sense of the world. What's the paddle you mentioned?
I don't know. When I got my Audio Hijack order this morning, I finally went ahead and did what I was supposed to do, and it's no, the company is Rogue Amoeba,
and the service they use for billing is called Paddle.
Okay, so it says your Audio Hijack paddle.com order, and of course I went paddle. Let's go get the sups out. Let's go to Cherry Creek Reservoir and paddle our boats. Let's paddle our paddle boards, but it's not. It's some kind of a paddle. So that's the billing thing.
That's the billing thing, correct?
I don't know what it has to do with it. It's because I got this email from Rogue Amoeba, and the email address is help@paddle.com. So I don't know what that meant, but it seemed curious. It's nothing to do with the software. We talked about this last week off air. Audio Hijack it's a software, right? I'm using that correctly?
Yep, it's software. It's an application. And the reason we need it, so I've been using Audio Hijack since we started recording remotely and even a little bit before. But it makes it really easy to take different sound sources, whether those are applications or microphones or whatever, and then route them in different ways so that you can record them. So what we needed, kind of our special use case, is my voice needs to go through this microphone and into a recording, but it also needs to be split off into Skype so that it gets sent to you so that you can hear it as well. So Audio Hijack helps us with all of this sound routing so that you can hear me, I can hear you, and we can record to files as well.
Yep. I like the look of it. I don't fully understand it yet, but you helped me set it up last week. Let's see. Yep, I'm just checking right now that everything's bouncing and it seems to be saving in the right place. I'm still confused, Andrew, about their logo. I love it. It looks like a jar of honey. It looks like canning, like a mason jar, which I'm very into that. I've been I canned a little bit. I made some jelly recently.
What kind of jelly did you make?
Cactus.
Cactus jelly? Did you have a cactus in your garden? Or I've never had cactus jelly. I've never heard of it. Tell me about cactus jelly.
Me neither. Oh, no. The tree guy had some cactus. What did he call them? Not ramps, but anyway, fruit from a cactus that he got somewhere. I don't know. Tree guy. He's got squirrels. He's got bar. Right now, I have 2 logs in my backyard that are special logs because he wants to cook the bark. Because he's a tree guy. His point is that a lot of bark of trees. This is his idea for his podcast, which still is unformed, and I don't believe will ever really come to fruition. But anyway, he's a character. So he brought me some cactus fruits, and I don't know what to do with them. They're not good. They're not yummy. They're full of really stony seeds. So I looked it up, and it's just a sugary fruit. So I made some jelly out of it with moderate success. Point being, I like canning jars What is that logo for Audio Hijack? It looks like jar of honey. It's got, as you pointed out, the label on the thing is what do you call it? Like a waveform.
Mm-hmm.
Blocks from a waveform. So I get it. That's the audio part. I looked it up, Andrew, last week to see if I could figure out what their logo meant. Never found it.
I don't know why you've spent so much time thinking about this logo. I
cute to me.
I never thought twice about it. I've probably downloaded this software more than a year ago, and I've never. I mean, other than the fact that it's a nice, clean logo, I've never cared to explore the significance of
it's clean. First of all, I care about shit like graphic design. Secondly, I care about logos. Thirdly, it is clean, but it is very like folksy looking, right? I'm intrigued by it because it's this, I mean, it's like a hand drawing and it's clean, but it's like, I mean, look, I'm looking at it right now. It's like, this will be our show art probably. It's got shading. Yeah, what do you think?
You say honey, but it looks more like that bottle is more like a potion, kind of like a, I don't know, something a little bit more
witchy,
fantasy,
magical.
That's like the
alchemy.
Audio Hijack helps you trap that magical sauce in a vial. What do you call that kind of glass container?
Right. Like an apothecary jar.
Yeah.
It's not quite a vial. I mean, it's still a jar, but you're right. It has the cork top. Golly, this has got to be fascinating to people not looking at the actual logo. But no, you're right. You're right. I mean, it is. You're right. There's something there. Also, when I wrote my cold open, and obviously in the first part of it, I just read the definition of what hijack is. Unlawfully seize an aircraft, ship, or vehicle in transit and force it to go to a different destination or use it for one's own purposes. What a great name for their software. Their software is very aptly named because they take our voices and all of the sound, and then you can force it in transit to go to a different destination or use it for one's own purposes. This is a well-named company. I like it a lot.
It is. And their software is good too. So they've got a whole suite of other sound management tools for your Mac. They've got one for creating soundboards, so you can take samples and assign them to buttons. And, if every time you started talking, I wanted to trigger a fart noise, I could do that using a different one of their products. But these people are the experts in sound management on a Mac.
I like them a lot. I like the interface so far. It makes sense to me. I can understand it. What you just said about creating buttons, that's very interesting to me. Not what I need to be spending my time on, but it sounds fun. They should sponsor us. And maybe if anyone's listening and can tell me, why is Rogue Amoeba or Audio Hijack? I'm very curious about that little logo. I absolutely love it. You're right. It might be a witchy, potion-y kind of thing. That's funny because I was planting, oh my gosh, my garden. I had some comedy boys over here helping me, and I bought marigolds for my garden.
Your comedy garden.
It's the comedy garden. Yeah, kind of is. It's not very funny, though. It's beautiful. And they work very hard. Turns out when there's no comedy, comics can be good handymen. Hooray. Some of them I would never trust with a freaking hammer.
Well, it is funny because you did have bad luck with a comic handyman previously, and maybe the issue wasn't that particular handyman. Maybe it was that there was also comedy available. When you take away the comedy, maybe all comics become good handymen.
Well, that particular comic, that's funny. We're talking about Luis Jesse Ricardo Martinez, and my friend Lillian.
Wow, way to name drop.
Why not? I mean, let's talk about it.
That's a mouthful.
I know, and he knows. The other day, he's a lunatic. I think what he's doing right now in the Apocalypse instead of comedy is he's doing everybody doing a lot of like live streaming and podcasting and stuff. He, I think, is delivering DoorDash and antagonizing people online. But the other day, my friend Lily and I were driving and we went, golly, you know what? I even kind of miss Lewis right now. We just miss our whole scene and what we do every night of the week. And it's like, God, I'd take 10 minutes of Luis Jesse Ricardo Martinez. I'd take 10 minutes of Lewis right now. He's a lunatic. He is a beloved lunatic. He is truly, truly, truly a very, very funny comic who lives on the edge of all things in life and in comedy. But he kills. I mean, he can crush. He is a loose cannon most of the time. But boy, when the time is right, that man steps up and just crushes. He's really, really funny. But these are kids who are not as crazy as Lewis, and they just happen to have some handyman skills. Anyway, point being, I was buying marigolds for the garden, and that is because it is my understanding. I realize that I haven't looked this up to confirm, but it is something I know as old as I know anything, that you plant marigolds near your tomatoes because it keeps the bugs away.
Really? That's an interesting tip.
Yeah, and you plant. I've also got a citronella plant. It's a mosquito plant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's that kind of stuff. So anyway, I planted some marigolds, or I've got them, and the guys were helping me. And I have a lot of lavender. That's what I decided to plant in the main part of the garden. Anyway, and the guys were saying, "Oh, that's cool. You've got a lot of stuff for like potions and healing tinctures." I said, "Yeah, I do." But what are you talking about? Marigold is one of those things? And this guy said, yeah. And I probably is. I just don't know the, healing properties of marigold or how it is used and things like that. And it turns out that this guy knows this because of video games.
Really? So he's healing his video game self with some marigold juice?
There is some kind of video game, Andrew. I should not even open my mouth because what I don't understand about video games is a lot. There is some kind of there's like fantasy video games. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Sure.
Okay, where you create characters and things, and you have to do potions. There's like a thing, and then this cat was explaining it to me in great detail, and I was sort of, not listening. Quite frankly, is what it was about. Anyway, have you seen the pictures of my garden lately? It's gorgeous.
I have not seen any pictures recently.
Well, I actually have plants in the ground. Oh, this was great. On the night before Mother's Day, in Colorado, they say you shouldn't plant anything in the ground until after Mother's Day. And, of course, Mother's Day, it's a little bit different each year, but around the middle of May. And I literally planted the day before Mother's Day. I spent hours and hours and hours in this backyard. I mean, stupid, in fact, that was the day. Did you see that? Oh, yeah, I sent it to you guys. That was the day there was a shooting 100 yards away from my front door. I saw the cop cars. I did not see the TV news crews and everything else. Because my backyard really is an oasis. I was back here gardening, putting things in the ground. I put in, like I said, in the middle of the spiral walking meditation garden. For a bulk of it, I'm going to do only lavender plants. Oh, so cool. Because that's a good crop. I mean, I'll use them. And beautiful and smells good. Bee, it's a really good bee plant. And I have bees in my neighborhood. I mean, my neighbors keep bees. So yay, healthy bees and healthy honey. And I have basil. And I have some cabbage and some broccoli. The tomatoes are not in the ground yet, but I have the little starter plants. So anyway, I planted all this stuff, bunch of flowers, couple of bushes. Then my mother, I had heard this from Rafiki next door, but I kind of was like, I was being a little skeptical. My mother called me at like 9 o'clock at night and said, there really is a frost warning. You have to cover your stuff. Because I had posted a picture of my plants in the ground, and she goes, got to cover it. Actually, she texted me that, and I was like, all right, I knew it. And my neighbor had covered her stuff with plastic, but by that I mean she tented each plant, right? So there's a tent of, you could put a plastic bucket over a plant. It doesn't take a lot. Just keep their little leaves from getting totally exposed to a real frost. Well, I had planted, quite an expanse of stuff.
Sure, they don't make a 5-gallon bucket big enough.
Yeah, and also, yeah. So what I did, and I remembered that, and I called my mom. I said, Mom, I was going to get a sheet of plastic out of the shed, and I went, this is wrong. I've just watered. This is going to freeze everything. It's not plastic, right, Mom? It's not plastic. So I called Mom. I said, it's not plastic, right? I got to cover this with blankets and stuff, right? And she goes, yep, sheets, blankets. So then it was like I was tucking in my plants, my little babies. It looked like I had a backyard sleepover, but it was just tablecloths and sheets and blankets covering all of my yard. And then it was going to be also like crazy 45-mile-an-hour winds. And so I put bricks on the corners of everything. It was just so funny. I had worked so hard, and I was like, all right, now cover it all up. And my family came over on Mother's Day, and I did a really cool thing. We all stayed outside. They brought food. We served from the studio, just right on the other side of the curtains where I am now, where I normally have clay or whatever. Cleaned it up, had it really good in terms of being not spreading germs, right? And I had 5 different tables in my yard so that even though there were only 11 people here, we could all sit socially distant from each other. These are my brother's family, my sister's family, my mom, me, my ex-husband, and my son who lives in this country. And so, these are families my mom has been in quarantine with my sister's family. So, everybody swapped germs a little bit, stay with your family, but we could stay far away, and it was a nice day. And I wanted that backyard. That's what I'd been working towards. It's just like having it be so beautiful because it's so beautiful. And it worked, and it was beautiful. We had so much fun, and the kids played spike ball and washer toss, and it was really great. But, I stayed up really late and got up really early to deal with this because I was fighting off the freeze like a pioneer woman. It was one of the oldest things I remember, and I actually had a lovely conversation with my mother when I called her, and I said, It's blankets, right? It's not plastic. Yeah, of course. And then I was just like, boy, it brings back memories. I grew up in an agricultural household, and we had sheep and, animals and things. And we were talking about when I lived in Washington State and we had sheep. That was the year that Mount St. Helens, one of the years we had sheep, Mount St. Helens blew up. And ash was everywhere in our town, and we were trying to keep the wool of our sheep clean for the fair. It was impossible, but we had my mom's so like innovative like this, like really smart. We took nightgowns, like old nightgowns, because they were stretchy and whatever, and put them on our sheep. So our three sheep were
so
out in
funny.
the pasture, walking around with like a pink nightie on. It was so funny.
I'm picturing that in the style of Wallace and Gromit. I'm picturing
Yes!
like a claymation sheep with a cute little nightie on.
The makers of Wallace and Gromit have a sheep character. Do you know that sheep?
Yeah, I know it's got its own show now.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be really good. Gromit, sheep, character. What's his name? It's like Bill the Sheep or something.
Something like that.
Shaun? Is it Shaun the Sheep?
It's probably Shaun.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it does look like it is like a Wallace and Gromit kind of thing. Yeah, Birth of Shaun the Sheep. It's Shaun the Sheep. I guess Shaun the Sheep, his own show, is really cute and funny.
I believe it.
I've heard that lately. I've heard that from parents. Like, that's good content when you're quarantined, staying at home with your family.
I actually watched, speaking of Shaun the Sheep, Adam Savage has a YouTube channel, and he builds all kinds of cool stuff. But he actually had the claymation studio out of the UK. They came to visit him, and they brought some of the models they use for these movies that they've made.
Wallace and Gromit, that studio?
Yeah. And it's been around since, I don't know when the first Wallace and Gromit came around. Maybe like in the 70s, the 60s, a long time ago. And it's the same studio that's put together all of these claymation movies that we know and are familiar with,
That's awesome. Adam Savage, what's his channel? I'm on YouTube.
I think it's Tested.
Ooh, Tested One Day Build. Yeah, Adam Savage is Tested. I'll check it out.
I enjoy that stuff because he does he calls them one day builds, and he comes up with maybe he's going to improve his shop, maybe he's going to create some kind of movie prop, which is his background, and then he walks you through it from start to finish, and it's really fun, and the production quality is good.
Sculpture of a mechanical hand, one day builds, repairing vintage something, weathering a thermal something, and I also believe I saw something about wood-fired pizza, which makes me really hungry right now.
Yes.
How to mold and cast a lightsaber. Hey. Oh, yeah. George Filholm knows all about Adam's building of lightsabers. Hey, on Sunday, I'm going with George Filholm to get his very first tattoo.
What's the tattoo of?
Well, the latest that I've heard is that he's going to get his initials in Star Wars alphabet letters. So that's not a thing.
I guess I'm supposed to be supportive, right?
Right? Question mark?
That's a very funny difference between you as a mother and my mother as a mother. I think tattoos, had I said that I was going to get a tattoo, well, first of all, I would never, because I think it would be immediately greeted with some kind of like, what the hell are you thinking? So it'd have to be a secret, and my mom certainly wouldn't take me to the parlor.
It would not have to be a secret. Your brother has tattoos?
He has tattoos, but that's one of those things. Once it's on, it's on. There's nothing you can do about it after it's happened. But had he said, I'm gonna go get a tattoo, will you take me to the parlor and let me sit on your lap as they stick needles in my arm repeatedly? I think my parents would have said absolutely not.
Oh, let me make this clear. I absolutely said absolutely not until my son is now 21 years old. He can do whatever he wants with his body, actually. So I am thrilled that he is including me at all and not just sneaking out to do it. And then when I said, can I come? He said, yeah. And he told me the time. And I'm thrilled to be there. What my feelings about the tattoo are mixed. His choice of tattoos. But, I've talked him through it.
Can you say where it's going to be?
Well, the last idea is, oh, God. I believe he's going to get a thigh tattoo.
A thigh tattoo because it's not visible? It's...
Exactly right. It's like not visible unless you're wearing swim trunks or a wrestling singlet. See, that's what he thinks. I believe the word was mom. I've seen some of these college wrestling guys and they have the thigh tattoo instead of the chest tattoo. And those guys go hard. I believe that was the quote. Oh my God, Andrew, for God's sake. Okay, he's okay. Dude, I've talked to him about I've talked to him about things. I don't exactly know what he's going to do. God bless it and Godspeed, and I'm happy to be there. I'm happy to be included. It's a big deal for a boy. And I like tattoos, as you know. I don't like dumb tattoos. I don't care.
Well, how many tattoos do you have?
Pretty. 1, 2, 3. Oh, golly. I have a lot now, don't I? I mean, 5 technically, but really it's 6 because my wrist tattoo was once just a viney band, and then I had flowers added to it.
So of your 6 tattoos, do any of them count as stupid?
I do not love the roses on my wrist. I actually don't love that one, but partly that came from like when I taught at your high school, I had to cover it every single day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was the rule. And it kind of got weathered, and not stupid. I don't like regret it. I just the wrist tattoo I don't love it. And so then what I did instead of like learning from that is that in the past calendar year, I went ahead and got 2 other giant ones on my forearms. I mean, not giant, but like pretty. So let's just go ahead and lean into it. I don't mind. I like them a lot.
In for a penny, in for a pound.
Kinda. I like it. And I like tattoos on bodies. I do. So, I mean, again, this one, I don't know, George. Okay. I mean, my only point, Andrew, is that Star Wars alphabet is not a real thing.
Not only is it, well, it's one of those things you're going to have to explain it, right? And I learned from podcasters that people who get tattoos, they want you to ask about them. Otherwise, it wouldn't be on their forehead, right? So you're supposed to say, "Hey,"
on their forehead, sure.
Well, anywhere, right? Your wrist tattoo, it's not there because you don't want people to see it.
I want people to see it. I really don't care if they ask about it. I don't really expect them to ask about it. I expect them to go, "Cool, she is awesome," because these are beautiful tattoos.
If you put some fictional letters on your thigh, that is a statement, right? That's something unique and different, and it's causes someone to say, what does that mean? Is that Chinese for soy sauce? What
Bro,
are you trying to say with your thigh?
Okay, I mean, why not? I'm just gonna tell the whole story. I don't know. The truth is that what his original plan was to do Nordic Runes. I believe that's what they're called, and that's a sort of alphabet-y thing. And I was like, dude, you got to be really careful with that. You know what I mean? You don't want to. We've talked about it, like put a symbol on your body that means something you don't understand or whatever. And he is convinced that he had done the research and he knew what each of these symbols meant and there was a thing for it. And it's really cool looking. I preferred that as a tattoo. But I started kind of looking, I said, is there a modicum of white supremacy about this particular jam? And George said, kinda. I've looked. Yeah, I know what you mean, Mom. This one symbol in particular. And then we were talking. He's like, but that's not my intent. And it's actually Norwegian, and he is Norwegian. But I mean, it does feel like his heritage. We are Vikings. It really does. I mean, it feels legit. It feels less like putting, I don't know, an Aztec band or, like you said, like Chinese characters or something. It feels less like cultural appropriation. Putting an ohm or something, some symbol of a truly different culture. George can claim that this is his heritage, and that's cool. And each of these symbols sort of meant something that he liked and all of that. But we talked about it, and then we started kind of just looking, and he was like, here's how the white supremacists use it. And I'm like, I really strongly think you can't do that, George. You cannot. He's like, but it's Norwegian, but it's my heritage, but it doesn't mean that. And I mean, he was not arguing with me hard. We were walking through it. He was not being truculent. He was listening, and he did change it to then Star Wars letters, I guess. I don't know what that means. I looked it up. I don't know what it means. Anyway, but I mean, I was just like, George, you look like you look. You can't. You cannot. It doesn't matter your intent. You can't get even close to that because that's not who you are. I mean, you can do what you want, George. I really was like that. I was just like, you got to watch that. You really have to understand. It's sometimes not the intent. It's what people see. I compared it to, just even me with even tattoos at all. I would never show my tattoos at all at a job interview. When I'm doing my mama bear stuff, I usually cover it up, just like it's edgy. I don't want people to be thinking about that. I don't think you want people thinking about your white supremacist, perhaps, tendencies. Even if it's just like you're on a beach and it's show. Anyway, so we talked, we really did talk it through like that. And that's a thing that, I mean, obviously that's a tattoo trope, right? Like getting something We've talked about it on the show where you get some character and it doesn't mean the thing you think, or you get a thing and the person from the actual culture is offended, that kind of thing. So we switched to Star Wars letters. Dude, I don't know what it looks like. And the truth is, Star Wars letters just look like cool shapes. They might look Star Wars-y. I don't think it's going to be like, what the hell is that on your thigh? I think, it's not going to be like super confusing to people. And you're right. A kid like that wants to have a story behind the tattoo. I didn't. Like, my first tattoo for sure was roses on my wrist, and there's no story. I just liked them. The story on the tattoo, which we have discussed on the show, on my butt, is a lyric from a song and, a thing that from my favorite song. Not a real big story behind that. This was my favorite song. It's kind of my theme song from when I was younger. And then the ones on my wrist have a little bit more meaning, but I don't feel like, hey, this is really an invitation to talk about me and find out how intriguing I really am. George may have a little bit of that going on. There might be a little bit of like, ask me about these cool characters and let me talk about Midi-chlorians with you. It could be a thing.
No, you're not supposed to talk about Midi-chlorians. That's the dark spot in the Star Wars.
What do you mean?
So Midi-chlorians are one of that's like things in your blood that make you a Jedi. And
I know.
They introduced that in the Star Wars people don't like to talk about, the ones with Jar Jar Binks.
Oh.
So you wanna like a more appropriate tattoo might be the Midi-chlorians don't exist, fight me tattoo. Right? Because that's what a true Star Wars fan would, I think. I mean, I'm speaking out of class.
Well, let me tell you what I think about Midi-chlorians, what I've heard about this. I saw a real debate open up at my father's funeral. I mean, not at the funeral, but with hanging out with my uncles and cousins about, okay, here's how it went. Did I not tell you this?
A real pew-clearing brawl.
For hell's sake. It was so funny, Andrew. No, it was this. I'm asking, so wait, what is this? Wait. I thought the Force was like a magical thing. No, it can be met. What? It's in your blood. Wait, so is it like an STD that could be transferred from one person to another? What? Okay. Anyway, so I guess my cousin says the presence of oh my God, Andrew, the presence of Midi-chlorian in the blood is an indicator of the Force. And like my uncle pulls his chair, like slides his chair over, like really intent and goes, really? Are you kidding me? So you think, and he said that, like, okay, so if it's just if Midi-chlorian, it's the Force in the blood, then why don't we just do blood transfusions and everybody can get the Force? And I'm going, correct. That's my question. His belief is that it is a measure of the Force in the bloodstream. Oh, I can't scream. I'm trying to keep from clipping. Andrew, it is so hilarious to me, and they can talk so hard about it and so serious, and then everybody's looking at Wookieepedia for their info.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And then there's oh golly, what else was it? There was a discussion. Oh, then they were explaining something to me about being a Jedi and what the Force is. You know how I do. I kind of, like I haven't made this podcast with George, but we still should because this is a very funny talk. They were explaining to me some of the ideas of Forces and Star Wars in terms of wizardry. So okay, so are you guys right now using Harry Potter metaphors to explain Star Wars to me? Correct. Yes, they were.
It's all the same.
I love it. It is all the same. It's an epic story. And it's our noble hero coming back to himself. I love it. I do. But also, I think it is so goofy. And there's a Star Wars alphabet, whatever. All right, so that's it. I'm doing that this weekend and my garden. And how are you? What are you doing? What are you up to?
What am I doing? I'm still working on renting my house out. I've got some more showings coming up. I did some showings this past week. Hoping to get that off of hoping that starts producing some income so I'm not paying rent and a mortgage every month. That's my primary motivator. As far as other things, I'm doing some big stuff for work. We saw some friends this week, and our friends are having babies. I'll tell you offline who those friends are.
Friends that I know?
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to bring Miss Filholm those babies?
I don't know. You're going to have to rekindle a relationship with them. I don't think you've seen them in a very long time.
I don't think there's any rekindling to be done. I think they would. I should think they would be delighted to see me, Andrew.
Of course.
Also, you're not holding anybody's baby because of the apocalypse. I just have to go over to the baby across the street, Mikey, and just flirt with him from 6 feet distance. But he's so cute.
That's
so. You saw friends in person. Did you keep socially distant?
Not really.
Bro, that's a pregnant lady. What the fuck is wrong with you?
It's a pregnant lady, but she's also in the medical field. She's the one. If anyone's going to say,
she's the one. She's the carrier.
If anyone's going to say, here are the procedures we need to maintain,
Sure.
it would be her. But she
Well, also
actually
she's the one carrying all the stuff because she's out and about.
kind of, but not really. So here's what I learned from her that I haven't learned from reading the news. And I actually had this story corroborated by someone else in my life whose husband is in the hospital system. But they both said the same thing, which is that those cases that we were expecting never showed up at the hospitals. So on the busiest day of the COVID scare, this hospital that this guy he's in the accounting area of this hospital. The busiest day, they had 12 COVID patients. But other than that, the hospital's pretty much totally shut down, unless you have an emergency surgery because you broke a bone or because there's something else that needs to be addressed immediately. Everything else has been totally shut down. So the hospitals, not only have they not been getting their normal business flow, but they also never saw the COVID cases they expected to see. And now they're laying off all the nurses and the doctors because they don't have the money to pay all these super expensive salaries. Hospitals are already, their margins are razor thin when things are normal. And now that they don't have, they're not able to do their normal surgeries and their normal visits and everything else. They don't have any income coming in, so they're firing the doctors and the nurses. And this friend that I mentioned, she worked for a clinic, and they let her go because the clinic just stopped seeing patients. So it's a mess.
I know it's a mess. I actually had heard that about the ghost town of the hospitals because my neighbor's granddaughter works for the hospital. It still doesn't explain to me how a pregnant woman feels safe going out and swapping germs with people when she's pregnant. It still doesn't explain that to me at all. But I don't care. I'm not judging. Dude, I'm not kidding.
If there's something we've learned, it's that we don't know what's going on. But I suspect that she's young and healthy, and this doesn't present a risk to her or her baby.
Okay.
I don't know. Remains to be seen, right?
Yes, it does. Yeah, I don't, I mean, I can't tell. I don't know. It's weird. Things are kind of opening up. Like my clay date idea of taking clay to people's houses it's not relevant right now. It didn't go. It didn't take off because people don't need it. They feel less trapped.
Yeah, I've noticed that traffic's picked up.
Yep.
When I go to the
Feels
store,
like back
there's a
to
lot more
normal.
people there.
Yep.
So it is interesting because on the one hand, we hear about all these cases and all these new deaths and all this terrible stuff. But if you look at the hospital system, it's interesting to hear that you've heard the same things I have. Where are all these people going? Are they getting sick and dying at home? Because they're not in the hospitals.
I don't know. I don't know. And the biggest thing for me is just I don't know what to do with it, like in terms of should we gather? I mean, we did that sidewalk comedy that I talked about, and it was too stressful. We don't want to do that anymore. I have a couple of online shows coming up, like live Zoom. But I just like if a restaurant's open again, I still can't tell if we should. I still can't. I still feel like we're assholes if we're gathering. I still feel like we shouldn't be. I feel like things have opened up
Prematurely.
Yes, but I mean, maybe not. But I mean, if you look at, there are deaths in Colorado, and also it's a false construct that it's just Colorado. There's no difference between the states. Whatever. I don't know. I mean, as always, we've said it. I don't know. I will tell you. I texted you about this. As you know, I have been in a very dark place. I feel generally lighter and happier than I did a month ago. But I tell you, I still every day feels like I'm waking up to the same nightmare. And it's not going away, and I still do not feel, what's next? What the hell is next for me? What am I supposed to do? I don't know. It's not coming to me, and I'm not seeing it, and nothing, I don't know.
Well, what's next is George's tattoo.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. But I mean, in terms of my income and my life and the shape of my life, I am still, am I a comic? Do I still do presentations for parents? Is that my life, or do I need to adjust? We don't know. A lot of people, as I have said, are adjusting much better than I am, in my opinion. I still am a little bit disappointed in that, but I trust that it'll come. But I texted you about this. The thing that has brought me the most comfort and like I've been telling you, I've just still felt a little bit still a little bit like a weirdo, and I don't love that feeling. And then I watched the Saturday Night Live episodes where they have broadcast from home.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see any of it?
I haven't watched it.
Yeah, why would you? But I watched the one hosted by Tom Hanks. I think it was from a few weeks ago. Oh my God. I mean, it was like, and they did it on purpose. And Lorne Michaels has always done this very well when the country needs it. It was like a hug. It's like a warm hug. I mean, it was funny. Some of it is so funny. Not all of it was great. Of course not. It never is. But it made me, well, I actually sobbed because it made me realize that, and I think we talked about it, that moment when you know culture is for you, right? That podcast I was talking about, the Culturistas. I went, oh my God, Gilda Radner raised me. I was like, this show raised me. They did, and Tom Hanks hosted it, the perennial host who also was the first COVID celebrity, who's fine now, but he's still quarantined. That was beautiful. Who was the musical guest? Sang Shelter from the Storm, Bob Dylan's Shelter from the Storm, which I have been actively playing over and over to myself in this time of weirdness. And especially it was, that was double meaning to me. Bob Dylan's Shelter from the Storm. I actively, and I have been mourning this recently in the recent weeks, it felt like a snowy winter. And there were so many nights that I was out doing comedy where it felt like cold and blizzardy, and we shouldn't probably even be out. And I would walk into Kinga's at 11 o'clock at night with warm snickerdoodles because I had decided to, whatever. And actively knew throughout the winter, in a year where, I was losing my father, I had lost my marriage. That was my, as we know, therapy and healing space. Actively saying, this is my shelter from the storm. This is, and the lyrics of the Bob Dylan song, I posted it on my social media at the time and just actively thought at all of these stormy nights, because it really felt like there were a lot of them this winter. This is my shelter from the storm, going and being with these freaking weirdos and telling jokes. And what is that? And then I see Saturday Night Live, that song. I went, these are my people. These are the people who get it. And it wasn't like, oh, I'm Kate McKinnon. These are my people. I just meant like, this is where I have always felt understood and not a weirdo. And it's so funny that Saturday Night Live, and there were other ones that were just so, there was something, what was it? There was another sketch in particular that was just like a warm hug. Again, not all, but the other thing is, of course, like Kate McKinnon, I just mentioned her. She does the best, hilarious Ruth Bader Ginsburg impression. She's been doing it for a while, right? She does RBG's at-home quarantine workout. And it's so funny. So this is a woman quarantined. I believe she's alone, or maybe she has a roommate there with her. I mean, I do not believe a film crew came into her house. I think these people were filming in isolation, right? And it was so funny, and it was so well done. And it also inspired me. Like, I think I started saying that last week. Yes, I did talk about it. That like 2-minute videos, all right, that feels like content I can watch. Do an online stand-up. I have a show tomorrow night, Saturday night. I think I have 15 freaking minutes that I'm supposed to fill. And the idea is I'm just talking to my computer doing stand-up. I got to do something else. So I'm thinking on that. I think I'm going to make it a little more sketchy or something. But I don't think the next one I have is on the 31st. Maybe I'll put that in show notes because that's one that people can tune into. I don't know that I recommend it. That's the problem.
So who are these? Can you tell us about these shows? Who are the audiences? Who's putting it together? You said that the upcoming one people can tune into, but they can't tune into these ones. What's going on here?
No, they totally can. I'm just not sure I want to invite anyone to tune in.
I see.
And this one I'm talking about this weekend will be over by the time this show airs. There are various comics hosting various shows. Some of them are doing it on a weekly basis. This is one on Saturday night is called Outhouse Comedy. It's a local comic. And she is thrilled. She's done a cool thing. Like I said, she's responded with a creativity that I haven't had. She has booked myself, another local comic, and like a comic from maybe Kansas City or something, an LA comic, maybe 2 that are in LA. And I mean, her point is like, if we were on shows with these people in real life, we would be telling people like, this will be an amazing show to sell. Like, look who I'm working with. Mm-hmm. People with bigger creds than us, One of the guys is from Last Comic Standing, that kind of thing. So that, and then there's one in Denver, the one on the May 31st that I have done before. It's called the Apocalypse, LIPS. And they do it as a fundraiser every Sunday night, I believe. They have a fundraiser designated. As per who the audience is, I don't really know. I can't tell. I have done I did the Listen to Your Mother, Socially Distant Mother show, and that we had almost 200 people dialing into Zoom, but we knew that audience. Those were people who had bought tickets for the show that was supposed to be in April, and that's not a comedy show. I was the comic relief, but that's a show about motherhood, stories of motherhood. That one worked just fine for me. But that was like a sincere look at the camera. I'm just reading my piece. That is so much different than stand-up. So I don't know. I don't exactly know who the audience is. I mean, my friend who's putting on the show on Saturday night, looks like we actually have people saying they're going to watch. And she actually said, she goes, we have a devoted fan base for this. I don't know how big it is, but she said, plug your merch. They will buy it. Yeah. So I don't exactly know. So, but when I sent my bio, here's my books, here's my voiceover, hire my voice, buy my books. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't know who the audiences are. I don't know. But what I do know is that I have done one of these live Zoom comedy shows, and it was awful. It's cringeworthy. Yesterday, my comedy friend Lily and I were looking at some other comics who have been doing even just like bits of comedy, you know, like here's a new bit and they're just going to try it, like looking at the camera, do it. It's just cringeworthy is how we feel about it.
Well, you just need a model, right? This is a new way of doing things. People are trying some things out. A lot of it's not going to work. We just need to figure out what the formula is.
Exactly right.
There's no reason why you can't make people laugh via Zoom.
Totally right. And that's the point. And so that's what I'm saying for Saturday. I think I really, starting as soon as I hang up today, probably that's where my mind will be is what am I going to, I have some ideas. Because it just has to be a little bit of a structure. And so that's exactly what I've been researching. And like I said, sending in a video is way preferable to me. And then we can all live watch the videos together. Great. Like something recorded, edited. I have not been given permission to do that for Saturday night, and I'm not going to ask because whatever. But I do think I'm going to approach it differently. My idea right now is that, like, I'll talk about being in quarantine. I'll show you my bidet. I'll do my bidet material, but I'll show you it. You know, I might walk you through my house.
You do it live from the bidet.
Could do it live from the bidet. One of the jokes I've been saying, like, to the walls, I guess, is I'm kind of winning quarantine, winning the apocalypse because I cut my own hair. I've cut my own hair for years. I mean, I know it looks crazy. It never looks good, but I'm used to it. Cutting my own hair would be a funny set, perhaps, like to actually be cutting my hair and just have a tripod up. That was a thought. I have a construct of, I told you the 5 stages of dating in the apocalypse. I'm thinking I might get like a whiteboard and like teach it like, you know, like, hey, everybody, like I'm teaching a class.
Sure, like a video lesson.
Yeah. And it's going to be live, but like I said, I think I have 15 freaking minutes to fill with no one laughing, but not hearing a laugh. That's a long ass time of flap sweat. So I have to, that's exactly right. I have realized I have to adjust. I talked to a friend yesterday who's done more of these online shows, and I said, I got to do something a little bit different. And you're right, figuring out the shape of it. I right now am into the video, like I said, video content. And I think I will do that for the next one. And I can even do it by surprise, right? I can just do a screen share. I can be like, hey, everybody, what's going on? I mean, there could be a little goofy affect like that. Yeah, so I just have to think of, you're right, you're exactly right. I mean, and so that's what I've been watching is like watching videos of where do I laugh at a video, but it's not, that person is not waiting for the laughter. That's the killer thing is you're waiting for the laugh and you don't hear it. Even if it's live, there might be a 3-second delay. It's just awful. So I really do think there's a slightly different shape to it. So I'm going to try it Saturday night. And then I think the following Friday night, my friend has a place where we can be distant enough from each other, but go up one by one at the mic. And he intends to live stream it also. And he says you can see he thinks he's figured it out where you can see the audience and hear them laughing in real time. And he was sort of demoing it to me. So I'll try it. I mean, I'm going to keep trying it, but it's just like, hey, it's just a totally different shape of a thing. And we got to figure out the new medium. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like even my little videos that I was doing about what wine pairs best with the apocalypse, with your teenage rebellion. I may do that on Saturday night. I mean, that kind of shtick, but just live would be fine. Like I'm sitting in my living room. Now, let me just do a wine tasting lesson for you. I think I'm going to do more like that, which honestly should fit into my skills better than not because I'm a better kind of performer than I am a stand-up comic. So theoretically, I should be able to kill in this space, Andrew.
One would think.
And I'm feeling, the good news is that, like I just said, for the next day and a half, probably that's where much of my mental energy will be placed. That's all right. That feels good. Writing jokes, thinking about it. It's better than feeling like all I can do is read Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah, have you been spending a lot of time with your Stoic friends?
You mean the Stoic friends in books?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit. Less, like I said, I'm coming out of it a little bit. Things are getting funnier. Watch Saturday Night Live, watch some comedy. Haven't done that lately. So it's getting a little better for sure, for sure, for sure. Sunshine, paddleboarding, gardening, all of it helps. Getting better. Reiki has helped, We're getting better. I'm coming back, but it's still it's just weird. Like I said, as much as I feel way better. I feel way happier than I did. I mean, I was in a pretty sad, dark place. I feel way more joyful and bubbling up of joy, and somehow it's going to be okay. But I still really, not sleeping well, not eating well. And I still, honestly, every day just kind of go, I'm still waking up to the same freaking nightmare, and I don't understand it. But so are we all. We all are. We all are. It's time to choose joy. I haven't done much sidewalk chalk this week, partly because, honestly, I was just like, that's such a compulsion. I've got to dial it back. However, I have new sidewalk chalks that were delivered, one of which is a glitter set.
Oh my goodness, glitter sidewalk chalk. That sounds like a lot.
Sounds great. Don't even know what I'm going to do with it. Maybe today I'll go and do some. Anyway, so I think that there will be some paddleboarding this weekend if the weather holds. How was your Mother's Day?
I think it was delightful. We got the whole family together.
Good.
Grandparents and all. And my grandparents, they've been they're in the camp of old people who screw it, don't take away my freedom sort of thing. Don't tell me what to do.
Yep.
And there's nothing you can do about that
I
because
know.
they're grown ass men and women, and they've been on this earth for 80 plus years. If they want to do something, they're going to do it, and they should be allowed to, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's you can't treat them like a child because they're not children.
Well, it wasn't a child thing. One could have treated them and everybody else like citizens of the world where it's not about you. It's not your rights and your liberty. It's about a pandemic that is spreading. And it's not even, if you're not seeing it in front of you right now, it's not that it's not there. It hasn't gone away. It's killing a lot of people. So it's not about it's really not about your rights.
Sure, but
give me liberty
what
and give me
what are you gonna say to them? You need to be super cautious about this because it's going to kill all your friends. That's not really what's going on here. It's going to kill them specifically, right?
Kill them and just the whole thing. I know. I mean, I get it. Obviously, I get it. It's just, that's where I can't. I know it's the time to really, really be kind and not judge people, but that is such folly. And they're not I mean, there's lots of people who feel that way. And like I have said all along, we all have our moral loopholes. I hang out with people I shouldn't hang out with, that technically, they're, whatever, that we haven't been, whatever. I know. Anyway, carry on. That really makes me.
Sure.
I mean, it's not because the fallacy there is you can't treat them like children. No, you can make rules and laws that are in service of the greater trajectory of humanity and people who are, I'm sorry, seriously, Andrew, people who need to go out because they need to get a dog bed or I'm out of broccoli. I have seriously been going. Also, because my income stopped, I'm not buying things, right? I am exactly why the economy's going to stop. Because I've just I don't need anything right now. I can just get by. I'm going to plant a victory garden and survive. But honestly, what is essential? Okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to rant like this, but it makes me a little bit crazy. So how was your Mother's Day again, is what you were saying? Let's not go in.
It was delightful. It was delightful. We saw everyone. We had... what did we have? We had... I can't remember what we had. It was delicious. I ate a shit ton of it. There was potato salad involved. Oh, we had fried chicken. It was kind of a picnic inside. My parents, they embarked on a whole bunch of home improvement projects in order to get the house ready for Delaney and my rehearsal dinner that they were going to host at their house.
Oh, cute.
Not to mention they've been putting off these projects basically for the last 30 years since they had children. We've all left the house. They've had an opportunity to save up. So everything is up for grabs. Everything is a candidate for replacement and improvement and that sort of thing. So right now the big project is they're building a new deck in the backyard.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
And it's a humongous thing, and it's going to be made of stone. and it's very nice.
Ooh.
And their backyard is totally torn up. There's like 4 foot deep holes where all the footings are going to go for this thing. So it was kind of fun to see that. And young boys, 5-year-old boys like myself, we love to see big machinery. We like to look at big holes.
Yeah, I was gonna say they got some tractors back there. They got some little machines back there.
I missed the bobcat, but they did have a bobcat in their backyard, which is super cool.
Mm-hmm. Really is cool. It
It
is cool.
So I looked at that, saw the brothers, saw the
That's
grandparents.
nice.
It was good.
That's awesome. Did I tell you about the mulch delivery? I think I sent you pictures, but I don't think we talked about it.
Probably not. But your tree guy came in clutch. He gave you a mulch delivery of trees that had probably just been ground up that day or the day before.
Yes, and so I love it because it smells good. And it reminds me of Seattle. There's a lot of that in the Pacific Northwest because there's so much timber, right? And of course, his point was like, you need more mulch back here because it cools the whole yard down, and it's good for all of it.
It's good for
The
drainage.
whole tree ecosystem. Well, where I put it is just in my back parking space.
Mm-hmm.
The guest parking. I've got to redo the wayfaring map here. Put it in there, and now I'm spreading it. I had so much mulch that it was like, where can I put this mulch? Using it in my garden, using it, just to, yeah, it's awesome, and I love it. It is. It's trees just chopped up a couple days ago, so it smells good, and it's kind of cool looking. But my point being, machinery. Yeah, he backed up the tree truck with the bucket and everything, and dumped it. It was very cool. It was also very cool when he brought that truck in. Chew up my tree. I have lights on the tree sculpture now. I have one vine. I have a clematis.
And you can't get that treated right now because the doctor's office is closed.
Yeah, that's a vine, and I have to get my Boston ivy. I was recently recommended that maybe those vines would grow faster for the first year or two if they are in pots and not in the ground, but I have to investigate that. Anyway. Wow, I'm impressed that your parents are getting a cool stone patio. This is the other thing. I have been doing so much work. I have a new stone. It's not a full patio. It's a walking meditation path. I put in every single one of those stones with my hands. There was no bobcat to level the ground. George leveled the ground. A couple of comedy boys leveled the ground. I leveled the ground. And then brick by brick, I put it in.
Brick by brick.
Brick by brick, absolutely. And I kept just saying, St. Benedict, the work is prayer and prayer's work. But I realize, like when I say how proud I am of my backyard and it feels magical to me, it absolutely does. It's coming into looking like something out of some dream I've had. Like this is beautiful to me. I mean, and at night it's got areas and it's got lights and there are these things to do and it seems magical and beautiful. And I realized to most Americans, it looks like shit. It looks like junky. It looks weird because most people like that, like a big stone patio and a big expanse of lawn and, a nice patio set with a $500 umbrella with lights underneath it. And mine is like fairy lights and weird little freaking tree sculptures and an arch out of trees that I have forced to grow. It's very weird, and I love it so much.
Do you know what's interesting? That you say a lot of people think it looks junky. I've been spending a lot of time paying attention to other houses in the neighborhood where my house is, and it really doesn't matter if the house is a piece of shit and whatever. The difference, I think, in a good neighborhood and a bad neighborhood is not that you've got the nice perfectly manicured lawn or whatever, but that you're making an attempt, right? You want to see you don't want to see foot high weeds. It doesn't matter if the garden is mostly weeds if it's cut. There's as long as care is being taken to maintain something. Maybe that something is ugly and whatever. The difference, the thing that makes it a nice place to live, is that someone's trying.
I agree. Yes. End of story. I agree. And my neighborhood is mostly people trying and maintaining their houses. The few, as you know, on my block, there are a few that absolutely that's not the case. And that's why it's not a good neighborhood. In general, there are enough, and that's kind of why I bought here. There are enough people here where it's a working class neighborhood, and there are people, across the street, the eggs, the bees, the whole thing, the baby, they have the best crops in the world. So they're taking care of things. No, in general, I think that is true, full stop. If people are taking care of it, that makes it a neighborhood that seems nicer. It can be working class, right? It's not about being fancy and perfect. It's just, this is where people care about themselves and their shit, and that's nice, right? It's absolutely, that feels their sense of security and all of that. Where I get a little wonky, the only thing that came up there that I wanted to say is that's true, except in neighborhoods where there are a lot of like wagon wheels
Mm-hmm.
in the front yard. Those to me do not feel like nice neighborhoods where I want to live. But I'm wrong. Those are nice neighborhoods in different towns. It's not Denver. But, you know, that's the kind of shit that I just go, ugh. These are people who take care of their things, but there's a lot of, oof. Yeah.
It's funny you mention that because the house next door to my house, the guy has probably the largest collection on this side of the Mississippi of tires that are not attached to wheels and are not attached to cars in his backyard. He has all of this what I would consider junk and that sort of thing. But he does spend an awful lot of time in his front yard weeding and pruning and just generally maintaining the front yard. I have a totally different feeling about this guy than I would have if his front yard looked like his backyard.
Totally. And that's interesting, right? People, I get that too. That's the sort of, I respect that, like keeping your front yard nice, even though you got a bunch of storage and crap in the back. Got a mullet of a house, right? I am the opposite. I spend so much more time in my backyard. I barely even notice what's going on in my front yard. My front yard is fine. It doesn't need as much maintenance. It needs to be mowed and weeded and watered. It's fine. And it's cute. I mean, it's adorable. I have the fence. My front yard has great curb appeal. It's the coolest looking house on the block for sure. But, I mean, in terms of it looks maintained and manicured. But I just don't pay attention to it. Wait, I got to ask a question. With all of those tires, does he have any of them, like, is he using them as planters?
It seems as though he's saving them, like he's trying to pull off some kind of major financial arbitrage. Like he's purchased all these tires at a low price and is holding on to them for the great shortage when he can sell them at a tremendous profit. They're all stacked up nicely.
Oh, they are.
But there's more than you could use in a lifetime.
Funny. Huh. Interesting. I'm just glad they're not. If you were using those as planters in the front yard, that is where I step off. Like, no, thank you. That's gross. Wagon wheels, tires used as planters. Oh, what else do I hate? You know what I mean? Just like Buckra, stuff like that. Don't like it.
What's that word you just used?
Buckra.
Buckra. How do you spell that and what does it mean?
Well, I'm going to look it up because I don't know. I think it's a Buckra.
Buckra.
It has to do with bucket funk. Yeah, I'm right. It is. Augie's one-man band named Bucket Funk came. Yeah, it means a white person. And it means WT pretty much, white trash.
I don't know that I've ever heard that word.
Well, that's how I have heard it used, is more of like, it's not just a white person, it's like white trash person. Augie's name Bucket Funk, that was his name of his music. He chose it because based on the same, what am I thinking of? Same vernacular, because he's so white and he went to a school that was so ethnically diverse. The expression that he based bucket funk on, because he was playing some funk, was, son, you're so white, you ain't just pale, you bucket. You're not just pale white, you're so pale you're bucket. That's a joke. But I think it has something to do with Buckra as well. So anyway, what I'm saying is those kinds of things like planters out of tires and I don't know, what do other people, I just that stuff bugs me, but what I don't care. However, what also bugs me, but I didn't notice, as I mentioned earlier, did you see that shots fired woman dead at the hospital, and it was across the street?
Yeah, in the alley across the street.
Pretty much across the street and up across the other street. So across 14th on the northwest corner, in the northeast corner. You know, it's where that's where the activity happens, is in that house. It's a Section 8 housing, and there's often activity in and around that house. And this was in the alley. And you know what's so sad is that she's still unidentified.
Oh, they don't know who it is.
At last I looked, yeah, it's junkies. It's the zombies killing each other.
That's nuts. I wondered what was going on. They said she was shot. Is that correct?
Correct.
Wow. It's all happening in your neighborhood, Mrs. Filholm.
I mean, something's always shaking on Shakedown Street, as we have discussed. And the truth is, that morning, so it happened at like 11 in the morning, Andrew. And I was out getting my plants that day. That was the day that I was planting. So I was out in the morning getting my plants from the nursery, brought them home, and I'm not kidding, was in the backyard all day and all night long. I mean, up until 2 in the morning, covering the plants and dealing with crap. Didn't hear a thing. When I came home, I did notice all of the cops on that corner, and I went, yeah, well, it's always something. Didn't hear a thing about it. My mom the next day at Mother's Day said, I heard that there was a shooting somewhere on Valencia Street. That's my street. OPSEC.
Everybody knows now.
You can find out, right? I guess it's fine to say that. I suddenly went, ooh. Anyway, so she said, oh, I heard there's a shooting on the street. And I said, ooh, where? And she goes, I don't know. And I said, because it's a long street. Who knows? Geez. Next day, I go, oh, I found out. And it was like, oh, my God. And my neighbor who sees everything and is in part of all of it, she said there were, TV crews. My neighbor across the street also said she didn't hear anything. And she's got a house full of kids and stuff. She goes, we had a sleepover in the yard on Friday night, the night before, with the little kids. And then she's like, I didn't hear any of this. And then she said, I saw my fence on the news. There were definitely TV crews in the alley because my fence was on the news. She goes, I didn't hear any of it. So that's such a funny thing to me. And I actually think that is probably part of when you live in a neighborhood like this. I, and many of us, cannot pay attention to every possible, thing, because it mostly doesn't affect me, and it certainly didn't affect me. But then there's that heartbreaking thing when I did just read the little blurb on the news about it, as of a few days ago anyway. She's unidentified, and I go, that's as a mother, as a sister, as a friend, golly, isn't that a sad thing? And it's the zombies shooting the zombies, there's prostitution and serious drugs right here on this block all the time. I mean, the gig economy is real strong. You can see it going on right in front of my house. In terms of cars sitting there and doing whatever it is they do. And as we know, I used to find condoms and things in my alley. My security system camera has really made it better. I really have less of that because of the system will yell at you and people move away. But anyway, that was sad and crazy. And then I don't think I have told my mother that it was that close to me. Somebody said, don't tell your mom. I will. She doesn't. She gets it. But, that's so... people have thought since I moved into the dollhouse, that's funny. You live in this... Not funny. They think I live in a terrible place, and a lot of people are very worried about me. And that stuff doesn't help.
Well, it's very confusing, right? On the one hand, you and Rafiki have this great relationship. The lady across the street with her daughter. It's like a very happy, familial... there's a lot of good things around there, and at the same time, you've got people getting shot in the alley. It's confusing. So in summary,
not to me.
Shakedown Street is a land of contrast.
As is the world. It's never the same river anyway, Andrew. I like it. And as we discussed, we've been discussing for a year now, a little over a year. I moved here on purpose. I like it. I would rather live amongst that than where you live. And that's just true about me. And I'm glad that there are places for you to live and me to live and everything else. But it doesn't feel confusing to me. It feels like real life. That is real life right there. This shooting must have happened, right across the street from where little Mikey the baby lives. But there's Mikey and there's chickens and new bees and fresh eggs. You see the beautiful eggs I'm getting? And gardens are growing and people get murdered. Yep, that's life though, isn't it?
I suppose so.
That is the fullness. We all contain multitudes, and so does my neighborhood. I think it makes sense. I still love it here. I really, really do. I really would not. I love it, and I love my grounds, and I love my house, and it's been great. And like I said, the comics are rebuilding my planter boxes because my above ground, I think that's what they're called, right? Raised beds. They're just falling apart just because they're old. It's just whatever. And it could go one more season. It was just, they were bowing and I thought, I'm going to lose them. So they're doing that. And so that's cool.
What are those made out of? Are those made out of railroad ties or something?
No, just wood.
Just wood.
And the guy who's doing it, he was really smart about it. He got treated wood. We spent a little extra. He got nice treated wood that will really last the longest. And the wood that mine are made out of, much like the West Portico, my screen and porch, the people who built this shit didn't treat it. I treated my portico last summer so that it could be winterized, and it worked. It looks really good. I used that. What is it? Cabot stain. So it beads off, right? We talked about that. Mm-hmm. So I did the same with the planter boxes. And I wonder if I didn't make it worse because I stained them with that stuff. And they were like this old brittle dry wood. And then sort of they got engorged with the stain, filler treatment or whatever. And I wonder if I didn't sort of push them to bow and break a little bit sooner than they might have. I think I might have done so because I was like, why? Anyway, so now we've got this nice treated board, and he's kind of framing them. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. It's a lot of work, but I think that'll be good. And they came and did a bunch of different things for me, and it was really fun. And then of course we stayed up way, way, way too late, and Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I mean, those are people who make me laugh really, really hard. Hey, this is cool. I was just looking today when I was writing my cold open. I was looking down because I had an idea and I couldn't remember if I had done it before. And so I have this document that still has a lot of my cold opens. It's like a really janky document at this point, but it has some notes throughout the year that we've been talking about. My notes from Jad Abumrad, whom I saw whenever that was. And then this must have been, well, I can tell for a fact, just over a year ago, I have my notes on comedy, some of which we talked about on the show, and it was just my notes in case we wanted to talk about it. But the cutest thing to me, it's funny. I wrote some really nice notes about what I was learning at the time, and at the very end, I wrote some notes to talk about with you about comedian subculture, and just some notes here. And one of them is 16-year-old girl comic. And that 16-year-old girl comic is now an 18-year-old girl comic. She just turned 18. And it's Lily. And I mean, I'm so close to her now. She was over here yesterday doing clay. She's such a big part of my life right now. And it's like, oh my God, look at that. I wrote it down like, Andrew, there's this crazy thing about the subculture. There's a 16-year-old girl out there doing comedy. And it's like, now she's one of my best friends. It's just cute. It's just cute. I mean, now I know her so well and we're important to each other. And she's so brilliant. Lily Osberg. So that was just kind of cute looking through these old notes. That was sweet.
It sounds like things aren't so bad on Shakedown Street, Mrs. Filholm. And that seems like the perfect way to leave our listeners this week.
We're bringing the ruckus,
that
man,
little note of happiness.
There's a little note of happiness bubbling up because it's life, isn't it? We choose joy. We always do. Hey, everybody, bring the ruckus. That's my advice this week. How about you, Andrew?
Excellent advice. My advice is just don't die.
Oh, shit. Or, okay. That's not happy. Okay, yeah. Thanks, Andrew. That's been lovely talking to you as always. I miss you. Bye, Andrew.
Bye, Mrs. Filholm.